Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. On today's episode of me talking about stuff, I'm going to be talking about episode 5 of Last One Standing, the competition series that sees 14 survivalists try to be the last one standing and get $100,000. Should be more in my opinion, but that is neither here nor there. Before I continue, link below are some surveys. There's a Last One Standing survey and a Largados y Pelados XL survey. Please check them out if you haven't already. I added some new names since the last time I did an episode, so if you want to vote for them, that's fine. If you don't want to vote for them, that's also fine, but we shall see what happens. Anyway, this episode is very interesting because, spoiler alert, it happens before the next elimination challenge, so it starts out with 9 people and ends with 9 people, but I'm sure this episode or this content was a producer's dream because they got so much content even before an elimination challenge that they were able to put into an episode. And there was a lot of drama, a lot of strategy happening, a lot of character development happening. It was all very entertaining to see, and it didn't feel like it was 2 hours because sometimes 2 hours can feel like a drag, but this was very entertaining from beginning to end. And spoiler for next week episodes, but it's in the description for the next episode. There is going to be someone who is eliminated, and there's going to be someone who is going to be removed from the challenge by medic. So we have no one eliminated this episode, but 2 people are going next episode. Who will it be? We shall see. I have an idea, but I'm not going to say it because, mystery. But anyway, we have our newly formed teams of 3 of Gary, Danny, and Fernando. Then we have Kai, Darrin, and Patrick. And finally, we have Jeff, Dan, and Trish. While many thought that the team of Jeff, Dan, and Trish would probably be fighting the whole time, it turns out they all work really well together. They all know it's a competition, and they know that at this time they're not going to be competing against each other, and they need each other to help themselves in the competition. So they're able to put any distrust or animosity aside, and they all worked really well together, which we saw during the cash hunt, because after everyone gets settled into their bomas and talking about the dangers of the wild and the need for a boma and rhinos stomping out fires, they the next day are given a map with the locations of the different cached items. There is a survival cache, a hunting cache, and a fishing cache, and so everyone splits up. There's also a unofficial fruit cache of baobab fruit. I believe I'm saying the name of that tree right. And Dani immediately goes for it because she, as we've heard before, is a vegetarian and can't eat meat, or chooses not to eat meat. And so she needs the fruit to survive. And there is a lot of confusion online because I believe in some social media posts, Dani posted and vegan was in the description, but I think she, for the sake of the challenge, is vegetarian because you are unable to get the necessary resources if you're going to be vegan, at least in this environment. I am probably wrong about that, but she probably switched it up just for the challenge. If she is vegan now, she probably has the resources to do it. But, she's vegetarian. She can eat eggs. She can eat honey. She can do all that. She can have the animal byproducts. Anyway, she and Fernando get some baobab fruit, and Trish is also able to get some baobab fruit, although she doesn't get as much, but she is able to get a few pieces of fruit. But Dani and Fernando get bags full of fruit, so Dani will be well fed. Hopefully she shares, because as we see in the episode, it doesn't look like Dani wants to share at all. And moving on to the other caches, Jeff and Dan are the first ones to get to the fishing asset, which is a cast net, and it's stuck in an acacia tree, and they have to try really, really hard and for a very, very long time to get it down. There are some holes, but they patch it up. Fernando is able to get the hunting asset, which is a pair of knives, and we learn later on social media that apparently the 2 knives count as 1 cache. So individuals saying, why don't they trade 1 knife for a fishing asset? Apparently it's both knives or no knives, because Kai on her social media has said that the pair of knives is 1 cached item. And then we see Kai, Darrin, and Patrick work together to get the survival asset, which is a hide. I can't remember the name of the animal specifically, but they get a massive hide. And also we see during the beginning of the episode that Darrin is struggling because he crushed a very sensitive part of his body and it was very inflamed, but he got some ibuprofen and luckily he was able to get some sleep and the swelling has gone down. So that's good, because if it were an infection down there, then he would have had to have been pulled from the challenge, but luckily that is not the case. And so all the cached items are found. There's also a point where Gary is searching for the cached items, but he goes too high of an elevation and Danny tells him they're going too high and Gary feels bad about it. So he's very worried. And later on, he is hunting for some geese and stumbles upon a new oasis, a fishing pond, well, a giant pond with lots of fish in it. And previously, the other groups have tried at a smaller pond and they didn't have a lot of success. Luckily for Jeff, Dan, and Trish, Jeff managed to catch catfish with the net that they got. But Gary found an oasis of a lake with fish, and so he decided to show everybody this oasis of fish. But Fernando and Gary wanted to trade the knives for a fishing asset so they can get some food, but Danny wanted to hold on to the knives because it wouldn't benefit her to trade for fishing assets because she can't have fish. And then she finds some bird eggs later on but doesn't tell anyone about it, so she's hoarding protein while also hoarding the knives. It doesn't seem that it's a majority rule with the knives. It's unanimous. So unfortunately, Fernando and Gary aren't able to trade. And Fernando is very kind and he doesn't want to ruffle any feathers. And Gary wants to have his friendship with Danny, and he saw how hard she worked during the tripod challenge. So he is on her side. So that causes some drama later on, as we see, because after Gary helps the other groups find the lake, he feels he doesn't get as much praise as he deserves because he did help them find a place to get more resources. And he felt that the other groups were kind of talking behind his back or talking about how irritated he's getting, and Gary didn't like that. And so he let his feelings be known that he felt the groups were being rude and not as thankful as they should be. And Jeff tries to mediate as much as he could because Jeff understands Gary the most out of everyone remaining and tries to placate Gary. But unfortunately, Gary does snap at him a few times. And then after Dan, Jeff, and Trish get a bunch of fish, and Patrick, Kai get a bunch of fish because Darrin is resting, Gary gets some fish, apparently from both, but we only see Jeff, Dan, and Trish giving a fish to Fernando to give to Gary and Fernando himself. And so the next day, there's a little bit of more drama because Patrick lets Gary know that his group is not going to be a soup kitchen and they're not going to just continue to give him food, and neither is the other group. And Gary felt excluded because Patrick was saying how Kai asked the other group to go fishing with them in the morning, and Gary felt it was a little bit unfair. And Danny kind of stirs the pot a little bit, it seems, because she was saying how they're trying to find weakness and they're just trying to get his goat. And so Gary gets really upset, and Jeff tries to tell him, hey, Danny's the one who's holding the knives hostage, essentially, and you're not able to get food, and neither is Fernando. Fernando is also not, or I don't know where Fernando was during this situation. Fernando ended up getting the net from his previous group, but when he was trying to fish, he was unsuccessful, so that's unfortunate. But I don't know where he is at the end of the episode. I wonder if he's hearing the arguing because Danny's like, oh, I need to eat my fruit and hide these eggs from everybody. I don't know why everyone is fighting so much. I also wonder if we are going to get to that point soon where she's crying about feeling like an outcast, but we shall see about that. But Gary's yelling at Kai, Darrin, Patrick, and Dan while they're at the lake and saying, oh, Dan is saying how Gary's acting a little aggro and how what makes Gary think that they're going to want to give him food after he's yelling at everybody. Patrick is saying, what's the point of including Gary's group in the fishing when they don't have a fishing asset? Danny's the one holding the knives hostage, but Gary seems to be mad at everybody, but his friendship with Danny is keeping him from saying that, hey, we need to trade these. But Danny's like, it doesn't benefit me and we could use it later on and the knives could be helpful. And so we shall see what happens. And it looks like Danny might have been right because, according to the summary for next episode, they are going to have to process a warthog. Spoiler alerts, but it's in the summary for the next episode, so it's not really spoiler. So maybe them having that knife helps them out in the challenge. And so someone will go home next week in the elimination challenge, and then someone gets ill and is removed by medics. Who will that be? We shall see. And all around a good episode. That's right. We have reached the end of the episode. Lots of great character development, lots of great drama. The PSRs are PSRing. Dan and Kai both have the highest, followed by Jeff and Gary. Patrick is slowly increasing his because he was one of the ones who started out with one of the lower ones, but he's starting to catch up with everybody. So it'll be interesting to see how far Patrick is going to make it. Hopefully a lot farther. He is very determined, and it'll be great to see what happens next, and hopefully none of my faves go home. Who are they? I won't tell you. Who I think is going home, I'm not telling you. But thank you all so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Please like, comment nice things, and subscribe. And please click the next video if it's mine. Okay, thank you. I hope you all have a wonderful day/night. Okay, now, bye-bye.